Jack Reynolds stepped out of his sleek black SUV and into the sunlight that bathed the small town. The air was crisp, a welcome change from the sterile confines of his high-rise office. He had spent years building his empire, but now, at the pinnacle of success, a void gnawed at him. The emptiness felt like a chasm. Money couldn't fill it. Seeking purpose, he had decided to visit an orphanage, an impulsive decision that felt strangely right. As he approached the shelter, the sounds of laughter and playful shouts filled the air. A group of children was outside, their faces alight with youthful exuberance as they chased each other in a game of tag. Jack paused, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. For a moment, he was taken back to simpler times, before the tragedy that had forever altered his life. His gaze fell upon a girl sitting apart from the others, her focus entirely on a sketchpad resting on her lap. This was Lily. She was about 10, with dark hair pulled back into a messy bun and large, expressive eyes that seemed to reflect both innocence and a depth of understanding beyond her years. Jack's heart tightened as he took in the sight of her tiny hands, deftly moving a pencil across the page. The image she was creating was mesmerizing, a vibrant depiction of a childhood that she, it seemed, had never truly known. "Hey there," Jack said, approaching her with a tentative smile. Lily glanced up, her brow furrowing slightly as she studied him. "Hello," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. There was a shyness in her demeanor, but it was coupled with a curiosity that intrigued Jack. "Do you like art?" "I do," he replied, taking a seat on the grass beside her. "You're really talented. What are you drawing?" Lily hesitated, then turned the sketchpad slightly, revealing a whimsical landscape filled with colorful trees and playful animals. "It's a place I dream about," she said, her voice gaining strength. "A place where kids can be happy, with no worries." Jack felt a pang in his chest. It was a world so different from the one he had experienced since losing his daughter, Emma. "It's beautiful," he said, genuinely impressed. "I can see how much heart you put into it." "Thank you," she said, a small smile breaking through her initial shyness. But as their eyes met, Jack noticed something deeper in her expression, a sadness that seemed to echo his own. It was as if they were both carrying the weight of unspeakable burdens. "What's your name?" she asked, her gaze darting back to her drawing. "Jack." "Jack Reynolds," he replied, introducing himself as he leaned back on his hands, trying to appear more relaxed. "And you're Lily, right?" She nodded, her eyes flickering back to him, curiosity mingling with caution. "Do you come here often?" "No, today is my first time," he admitted. "I wanted to see how I could help. This place, it feels important." Lily looked down, her fingers tracing the edges of her sketchpad. "It is important," she said softly, "but sometimes it feels lonely." "Lonely?" Jack echoed, his heart aching for her. "You have other kids to play with." "Not really," she said, a shadow crossing her face. "They don't understand me. They don't know what it's like to be different." Jack's pulse quickened at her words. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were more alike than he had initially thought. "What do you mean by different?" he asked gently, wanting to delve deeper into her world. She looked up, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. I have dreams about things I can't remember. Sometimes I see a little girl, and she's lost. I think she's me. I think I lost my family." Jack's breath caught in his throat. He felt an immediate connection, a shared heartache that resonated in his very core. "I'm so sorry," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I can't imagine how hard that must be for you." "It's okay," she said, though her eyes betrayed her. "I draw to make it better. When I'm creating, I feel free." Jack nodded, understanding the solace that art could provide. "What if I told you I'm searching for someone too?" he said, suddenly compelled to share his own grief. "Really?" she asked, her interest piqued. "Who?" "My daughter," he said, his voice faltering slightly. "Her name was Emma. She was taken from me a few years ago." Lily's eyes widened, and she leaned in closer, her expression shifting from curiosity to empathy. "That's so sad," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Do you think you'll find her?" "I don't know," Jack admitted, feeling the familiar ache in his heart. But I have to try. Every day feels like a struggle without her. The two sat in silence for a moment, each lost in their own thoughts, yet somehow connected by the raw pain they both carried. The laughter of the other children faded into the background, and for Jack, it felt as though the world had shrunk to just the two of them. "Do you ever think about what it would be like if you found her?" Lily asked suddenly, her eyes shining with curiosity. "Every day," Jack replied, his voice thick with emotion. "I imagine her smile, the sound of her laughter. I wish I could hold her again." Lily nodded solemnly, her own eyes reflecting understanding. "I wish I could remember my family. I think about them a lot, even though I don't know who they are." "Maybe one day you will," Jack said, hoping to offer her some comfort. "Memories have a way of surfacing when we least expect them. Do you think I could help you find your daughter?" Lily asked, her voice firm with determination. "Maybe I can draw something that will help." Jack was taken aback by her offer, but there was a flicker of hope igniting within him. "You would do that for me?" "Of course," she said, her eyes brightening. "I want to help. Maybe if I draw her, it will help you remember something." Jack couldn't help but smile, a warmth spreading through him at her earnestness. "Thank you, Lily. That would mean a lot to me." Lily beamed, and for the first time, Jack saw a glimmer of joy in her eyes, a spark of hope that mirrored his own. He knew, in that moment, that their lives were intertwined in ways he couldn't yet comprehend. They were both searching for something lost, and perhaps together, they could begin to heal the wounds of their pasts. Jack Reynolds stood in the middle of the bustling orphanage, the sounds of laughter and playful shouts enveloping him like a warm blanket. It was a stark contrast to the cold, empty mansion he called home. He had come here seeking something he couldn't quite articulate, perhaps a sense of purpose or a way to fill the void left by the loss of his daughter, Emma. As he surveyed the room, his gaze fell upon a cluster of children gathered around a table, their eyes wide with excitement as they admired the vibrant colors of a painting. The artist, Lily, sat slightly apart from the others, her small hands carefully mixing paints on a palette. She had a quiet intensity about her that drew Jack in. He watched as she focused intently on her work, her brow furrowed in concentration, and he felt an inexplicable tug at his heart. There was something hauntingly familiar about her, something that stirred memories he had long tried to bury. "Excuse me," Jack said softly, approaching her. Lily looked up, her large, expressive eyes meeting his. A shy smile crept onto her face, but there was a shadow lurking in her gaze that he couldn't ignore. "Hi," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do you like it?" She gestured towards her painting, a vivid portrayal of a sunlit meadow dotted with wildflowers. It was beautiful, yet it carried an undercurrent of sorrow that mirrored Jack's own heartache. "It's incredible," Jack responded, kneeling beside her. "You have a real gift. It's like you can capture feelings on canvas." Lily shrugged, a hint of shyness coloring her cheeks. "I just paint what I see in my head. Sometimes it feels like memories, but I don't know why." Her voice trembled slightly, and Jack felt a pang of empathy. "Memories can be tricky," he said gently, recalling the memories of Emma that haunted him. "Sometimes they're beautiful, and sometimes they hurt. Do you have memories like that?" Lily asked, her curiosity piqued. Jack hesitated, knowing that discussing Emma was like opening a wound that never truly healed. "Yeah," he finally said, his voice thick with emotion. "My daughter went missing a few years ago. I think about her every day." The words felt heavy in the air, and he watched as Lily's expression shifted from curiosity to understanding. "I'm sorry," she murmured, her voice filled with sincerity. "I have a dream about a girl who lost her family. It's always the same, and I wake up feeling sad." She looked down, her fingers tracing the edges of her palette as if searching for comfort. "Do you want to talk about it?" Jack offered, his heart aching for her. "Sometimes sharing can help." Lily nodded slowly, glancing around to ensure they were alone. "In my dream, I see a little girl playing with her family. But then, something dark comes, and she's all alone. I don't know why I dream about her, but it feels real." A tear escaped her eye, and Jack instinctively reached out, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Maybe you're meant to help her find her way back," he suggested gently. "Or maybe she needs someone to remember her." Lily looked up at him, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Do you think so? I just want to understand." Jack felt a surge of determination swell within him. "I think you're stronger than you realize. If you want, I can help you figure it out. Maybe we can find out more about where these feelings come from." A flicker of hope crossed her face. "Would you really help me?" "Of course," he replied, his voice steady. "We can start by looking into your art. Sometimes the answers are hidden in the things we create." Days later, Jack returned to the orphanage with a plan. He had decided to organize an art exhibition featuring Lily's paintings, hoping to raise funds for the orphanage while also providing a platform for her to showcase her talent. He believed that through this process, they might uncover more about her past and the connection that seemed to bind them. "Lily," Jack called out as he entered the bright, sunlit room where the children were gathered. "I have an idea." Lily looked up, her eyes lighting up with curiosity. "What is it?" she asked, her hands stained with paint. "I want to hold an art exhibition for you," Jack announced, unable to hide his enthusiasm. "We can display your paintings, and hopefully, it will raise money for the orphanage." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "You really think people will come to see my art?" "Absolutely. Your work is amazing, and I know it will touch people's hearts," Jack assured her. "We'll make posters, invite the community, and celebrate your talent." Lily's face broke into a hesitant smile. "That sounds wonderful, but what if they don't like it?" "Even if they don't, the important thing is that you share your story," Jack replied, kneeling to meet her eye level. "Art has a way of connecting people. You never know who might be moved by it." As the days passed, excitement buzzed in the air as they prepared for the exhibition. Jack helped Lily create posters and invitations, and he watched her blossom with newfound confidence. The day of the event arrived, and the gallery was filled with vibrant colors and the sounds of laughter and chatter. Jack stood near the entrance, watching as guests admired Lily's paintings. They moved from piece to piece, their faces lighting up with appreciation. He felt a swell of pride as he saw Lily's timid smile grow bolder with each compliment she received. "Your art is incredible," a woman exclaimed, her eyes gleaming with admiration. "It's so full of emotion." "Thank you," Lily replied, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment but her heart soaring. In that moment, Jack realized how far she had come. She was no longer just the quiet girl he had met. She was an artist, a storyteller, and a survivor. After the exhibition, as they stood together amidst the remnants of the celebration, empty plates and discarded cups, Lily turned to Jack, her expression serious. "I've been thinking," she began, her voice steady, "about my paintings." "What about them?" Jack asked, intrigued. "They're not just random images. They feel like pieces of a puzzle. I think they might be memories that I never lived, but somehow know." Her eyes sparkled with determination. Jack's heart raced. "Maybe we can find out what they mean together." "I'm here for you, Lily. We can unlock whatever it is that's holding you back." Lily nodded, her resolve strengthening. "I want to know. I want to understand why I feel so connected to you and to these memories." Jack placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll figure it out. I promise." As they stood there, surrounded by the echoes of laughter and the remnants of the exhibition, Jack felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. Perhaps in helping Lily uncover her past, he could also find a way to heal the wounds of his own. Together, they would embark on a journey that would intertwine their fates, revealing truths that had long remained hidden in the shadows. Jack stood in the dimly lit room of the orphanage, a sense of determination settling over him like a heavy cloak. It had been a few days since he first met Lily, and the connection they shared felt both surreal and profound. He had seen her paint the most vivid scenes that seemed to echo a childhood she had never experienced, and now he felt compelled to help her unearth the mysteries of her past. "Lily," he called gently, as she sat on the floor with a canvas in front of her, paintbrush in hand. Her brow was furrowed in concentration, but she looked up at him with those deep-set eyes that seemed to hold countless secrets. "Do you remember anything about your life before the orphanage?" Lily paused, her brush hovering above the canvas. "Sometimes I see flashes, like a dream I can't quite reach," she admitted, biting her lip. "But they slip away as soon as I wake up." Jack knelt beside her, his heart aching for the girl who had been dealt such a cruel hand by fate. "What if we tried to find out more together?" he suggested, his voice steady and encouraging. "Maybe we can piece together your memories." Lily considered this for a moment, her fingers tightening around the handle of her brush. "I'd like that," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I don't know where to start." "Let's look through your paintings," Jack proposed, excited by the idea that perhaps her art could lead them to answers. "You said they tell stories, right?" She nodded, a flicker of hope igniting in her eyes. "Sometimes I feel like they're memories trying to break free." As they began to sort through the collection of Lily's artwork, Jack felt a strange sense of purpose growing within him. Each brushstroke on the canvas held a part of her story, and he was determined to help her uncover it. They spent hours sifting through her paintings, and with each piece, Lily spoke about her visions and feelings. "This one," Lily said, holding up a painting of a vibrant meadow under a blue sky. "I see a girl running through it, laughing, but I don't know who she is." Jack studied the painting, feeling a pang of nostalgia. "It reminds me of a place my daughter used to love," he said quietly. "Emma would run through fields just like this." Lily's expression shifted, and she looked at him with wide eyes. "Do you think it could be connected?" "I don't know," Jack replied, his mind racing, "but it's worth exploring. Maybe that meadow exists somewhere nearby." With that thought in mind, they decided to investigate further. Jack picked up his phone and called a local detective he had met at a charity event, a woman named Sarah who specialized in missing persons cases. He explained the situation to her, his voice tinged with urgency. "Jack, I can come by tomorrow and see what we can dig up," Sarah replied, her tone serious. "It sounds like we might be onto something." The next day, Jack arrived at the orphanage with Sarah in tow. The detective was a no-nonsense woman with sharp features and an air of determination. As they entered the room where Lily was painting, Jack introduced them. "Lily, this is Sarah. She's going to help us find out more about your past," Jack said, trying to instill confidence in the young girl. "Hi, Lily," Sarah said, kneeling down to meet her eye level. "I've heard a lot about your incredible art. Maybe you can show me some of your paintings?" Lily hesitated, but then nodded, pointing to a canvas that depicted a dark forest. I don't know. It feels important." Sarah studied the painting thoughtfully. "What do you see when you look at it?" "I feel scared," Lily confessed, her voice trembling slightly. "Like I'm lost in there." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. "Lost?" he echoed, his mind racing with possibilities. "That's how I feel about Emma." "Let's try to connect the dots," Sarah suggested, shifting her focus back to Lily. "Do you remember anything specific about the forest? Sounds, smells?" Lily closed her eyes, concentrating. "There's a smell, like damp earth, and I hear a voice sometimes, calling me." Jack exchanged a glance with Sarah, a sense of urgency building between them. "What if we could find that forest?" he asked. "Do you think it could lead us to answers?" Lily opened her eyes, a spark of determination igniting within her. "If we can find it, maybe I can remember more." "All right then," Sarah said, her voice resolute. "Let's gather some information and see if we can locate this place." "Jack, do you know of any forests nearby that fit her description?" "There's a wooded area just outside of town, not far from where I used to take Emma for picnics," Jack recalled. "It's dense and dark, and it has a creek running through it. It might be worth checking out." "Let's do it," Sarah said, pulling out her notebook. "We'll plan a trip there and see if anything jogs Lily's memory." As they continued to brainstorm and gather their thoughts, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the cusp of something monumental. With every passing moment, the connection between him and Lily deepened, and he felt an overwhelming urge to protect her, just as he wished he could have protected Emma. "Lily," he said, breaking the silence, "you're not just an artist. You're a survivor. We're going to find your story, and in doing so, maybe we'll find mine too." She looked at him, her eyes wide and filled with a mix of fear and hope. "Do you really think we can?" I know we can, he said with unwavering conviction. Together. As the three of them made their plans, Jack felt a sense of purpose coursing through him. It was as if the universe had brought them together for a reason. They were bound by their pasts, and as they prepared to embark on this journey, he knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, like a family. Jack Reynolds leaned against the cold metal railing of the old community center, his heart racing with a mixture of anxiety and determination. The event he was about to infiltrate had been described as a charity gala for underprivileged children, but whispers in the shadows suggested something far more sinister was at play. He could feel the weight of the world pressing down on him, especially after the revelations of the past few weeks. The search for Lily's origins had become an urgent mission, not just for her sake, but for the memory of his own daughter, Emma. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the parking lot, Sarah, the local detective, arrived. Her presence was a reassuring one. She had been a pillar of strength and resourcefulness since Jack had approached her with Lily's case. Her eyes scanned the area, and she looked at Jack with a nod of acknowledgement. "We don't have much time," Sarah said, her voice steady but low. "If the rumors are true, we need to get in there and figure out what's really happening." Jack nodded, his jaw tightening. Lily deserves to know the truth. And if there's a chance to find Emma, or discover what happened to her, then we have to take it. "Stay close to me," Sarah instructed, her tone turning serious. This could get dangerous fast. They made their way to the entrance of the community center, where a line of elegantly dressed guests was waiting to be let in. Jack felt out of place in his casual attire, a stark contrast to the formal gowns and suits surrounding him. But he pushed his discomfort aside, focusing instead on the task at hand. As they entered, the atmosphere shifted. The glamorous decor, complete with sparkling chandeliers and lavish floral arrangements, felt like a facade hiding something darker underneath. Jack's instincts were screaming at him. He could see the mingling guests, but noticed the occasional furtive glance exchanged between some of them. It was as if they were all part of a secret society, and he and Sarah were the intruders. "Let's split up," Sarah suggested, her eyes narrowing. "I'll check the main hall. You take a look around the perimeter. If we find anything suspicious, we'll regroup." Jack hesitated, concern flickering across his face. "Be careful, Sarah. We don't know what we're dealing with here." She smiled reassuringly, patting his arm. "You too. Just keep your head down and listen. You might overhear something important." With that, they parted ways. Jack moved slowly, scanning the crowd, his heart pounding in his chest. As he walked, he caught snippets of conversation. Laughter floated through the air, but beneath it, he could sense an undercurrent of tension. "Did you hear about the last batch?" One man whispered to his companion, his voice low. "They're worth a fortune on the market." Jack's stomach churned at the implication. He knew too well what they were referring to. The network of human trafficking was not just a distant horror. It was something that had touched his life deeply. The thought of children being sold into darkness made him feel sick. He had to find out more. As he continued his exploration, he found himself near a small room partially concealed by a heavy curtain. Voices drifted through the fabric, and curiosity got the better of him. He approached cautiously, pressing his ear against the curtain. "The shipment is scheduled for next week," a gruff voice said. "We need to make sure everything is in place. If we get caught, we're done for." Jack's breath hitched. This was the evidence he needed. He couldn't just stand idly by and let these monsters continue their operation. He glanced around, looking for anything he could use to document what he was hearing. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the room, causing Jack to jump back. The curtain was pulled aside, and a tall man with a menacing glare stood before him. Jack's heart raced as he recognized the danger he was in. "What are you doing here?" the man growled, stepping forward. Jack's mind raced. I'm just looking for my daughter," he stammered, trying to maintain a facade of innocence. "I thought maybe she was here." The man's expression softened for a brief moment, but then he sneered. "You don't belong here. Get lost before I make you." Just then, Sarah appeared at the doorway, her eyes widening as she assessed the situation. "Jack, let's go," she called, stepping forward. Jack didn't need to be told twice. He turned and sprinted toward Sarah, their hearts pounding in unison. They dashed through the crowd, pushing past startled guests who glanced back in confusion. Once outside, they took a moment to catch their breath, leaning against the cool brick wall of the building. The reality of what they had just overheard weighed heavily on them. "Did you hear what they said?" Jack gasped, his chest heaving. "They're planning something big. We need to warn Lily." Sarah nodded, her expression grim. "We have to go back and find her. If they're involved in trafficking, she could be in danger." "Let's get back to the orphanage," Jack said, determination flooding his veins. "We can't let her fall into their hands." As they made their way back, Jack's mind raced with thoughts of Lily. He could see her bright smile and feel the warmth of her laughter. He couldn't let anything happen to her. She was not just a girl to him anymore. She was a symbol of hope, a chance to heal the wounds of his past. When they arrived at the orphanage, the atmosphere felt different. A sense of urgency hung in the air, and Jack's heart sank as he approached the entrance. He could sense something was off. "Lily!" he called out, desperation creeping into his voice. "Are you here?" He rushed inside, scanning the common room filled with children, but Lily was nowhere to be found. Panic gripped him. Had they already taken her? "Check the back rooms," Sarah urged, her voice steady despite the tension. "She might be in one of the art rooms." They hurried through the hallways, calling her name. Finally, they reached a small art studio at the end of the corridor. The door was slightly ajar, and Jack pushed it open with a trembling hand. Inside, the walls were adorned with Lily's artwork, vibrant colors contrasting sharply with the grim reality they faced. But the room was empty, save for a single painting resting on an easel. It was a haunting depiction of a girl surrounded by darkness, reaching out toward a faint light. Jack stepped closer, his heart pounding. "Lily," he whispered, desperation clawing at him. Suddenly, he felt a presence behind him. Sarah gasped, and together they turned to find Lily standing in the doorway, her eyes wide with fear. "Lily!" Jack exclaimed, relief flooding through him. "Thank goodness you're here." But Lily didn't move. Her gaze shifted to the painting, and she took a step forward, her expression pensive. I had a feeling something was wrong," she murmured. "I've been dreaming about this place." "What do you mean?" Jack asked, his heart racing with concern. "What have you dreamed?" She pointed at the painting. "I see a girl who's lost, trying to find her way back home. I think it's about me and about you." Jack exchanged a glance with Sarah, his mind racing. "We need to talk about this. It's important." As they gathered around the painting, Jack could see the confusion in Lily's eyes. She was so young, yet the weight of their shared pain loomed over them. They had to uncover the truth, not just for her sake, but for the sake of all the children who could be in danger. "Lily, we think there's a network, something dark, operating in the city," Jack said gently. "We need to figure out where you fit into all of this." "I don't know much," she replied, her voice trembling, "but I feel like there's a connection to my past, something I can't remember." Jack's heart ached for her. He wanted to protect her from the horrors of the world, but he knew they were already entangled in a dangerous game. "We'll find the answers together," he promised, determination coursing through him. As they plotted their next move, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The shadows were closing in, and they needed to uncover the truth before it was too late. Jack Reynolds had become a fixture at the orphanage over the past few weeks, his heart entwined with the fate of the children who resided there. But it was Lily who had captured his attention the most. Her art spoke volumes, conveying emotions that words often failed to capture. Each stroke of her brush seemed to bleed with the pain of a childhood lost, yet Jack sensed an unyielding spirit beneath the surface. One sunny afternoon, Jack found himself sitting on a bench outside the orphanage, watching as Lily painted on a canvas set up on the grass. The sun filtered through the leaves of the old oak trees, casting dappled shadows around her. The colors she used were bright and vibrant, a stark contrast to the sorrowful themes that often dominated her work. As he observed her, he couldn't shake the feeling that she was a mirror reflecting back his own grief. "Lily," he called softly, causing her to look up from her painting. Her eyes sparkled with a mix of surprise and shyness. "Mr. Reynolds!" she exclaimed, wiping her hands on her paint-smeared apron. "I didn't see you there." "Please, just Jack," he replied, moving closer. "What are you working on today?" She hesitated for a moment, glancing down at her canvas, which depicted a girl holding a teddy bear, surrounded by a field of wildflowers. It's a memory," she said slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "A memory of what I wish my childhood could have been." Jack's heart ached at her words. "It's beautiful, Lily. But tell me, what do you remember?" Lily's expression turned somber, and she dropped her gaze to the ground. "I don't remember much," she admitted. "Just glimpses of a life I never had. Sometimes I dream about a little girl who lost her family. She's always searching for them, but they're never there." Jack felt a familiar pang in his chest. The image of his own daughter, Emma, flooded his mind. She had been taken from him, leaving behind a gaping wound that had never healed. "I know that feeling," he said softly, trying to keep his voice steady. "I lost my daughter a few years ago. I've been searching for her ever since." Lily looked up, her eyes wide with understanding. "You lost her? I'm so sorry," she said, her voice filled with genuine empathy. "What was her name?" "Emma," Jack replied, a lump forming in his throat. "She was only 8. The silence stretched between them, heavy with shared sorrow. Jack could see that Lily understood his pain in a way that few others did. "Jack," Lily finally said, her voice breaking the stillness. What if I could help you find her?" The suggestion took Jack by surprise. "Help me find Emma," he echoed, disbelief coloring his tone. "How could you possibly help?" "I don't know," she replied, her brow furrowed in concentration. "But sometimes I feel like I know things. Like I can see glimpses of the past. Maybe there's a connection between us." Jack studied her face, searching for any sign of deceit, but all he found was sincerity. "What do you mean by a connection?" "I have these dreams," Lily explained, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "They're like memories, but they don't belong to me. They feel so real, and I can't shake the feeling that they're important. Maybe they're tied to your daughter." His heart raced at the possibility. Could it be that Lily held the key to discovering what had happened to Emma? "What kind of dreams?" he pressed gently. Lily took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. "In one of them, I see a girl in a park. She's laughing, playing with a dog. But then there's a shadow, a man watching her, and she doesn't even know. It's like I'm there, and I can feel her fear when he comes closer." Jack clenched his fists, the urge to protect Emma surging within him. "Do you remember anything else? Anything that could help us find her?" "Just fragments," Lily replied, her voice trembling. "Sometimes I see a place, like a house or a building, but it's always blurry. I wish I could see it clearly, but it's like trying to catch smoke with my hands." Jack felt a glimmer of hope mixed with despair. "Maybe we could try to dig deeper. I can help you remember. I have resources, and we could investigate together." Lily looked at him, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and determination. "What if we find something? What if I remember more? I'm scared of what it might mean." "Lily," he said, his voice firm but gentle, "whatever we find, we'll face it together. You're not alone anymore. I won't let anything happen to you." She nodded slowly, and for a moment, they shared a quiet understanding that transcended words. The bond between them had grown stronger, forged in the fires of their shared pain. As the sun began to set, casting golden hues across the sky, Jack felt a warmth in his chest. Perhaps this was the purpose he had been searching for all along. This connection with Lily, this chance to heal together. "Let's start tomorrow," he said, breaking the silence. "We'll go through your paintings, try to find any clues hidden in them. Maybe they hold the answers we're looking for." "I'd like that," Lily replied, a small smile breaking through her sadness. "Thank you for believing in me, Jack. Thank you for sharing your dreams with me," he said, feeling a sense of gratitude wash over him. "Let's make sure both of our pasts don't define our futures." As they talked, the shadows lengthened, and the stars began to twinkle in the night sky. Jack felt a sense of hope blossoming within him, mingled with the bittersweet ache of lost years. Together, They would face the darkness of their pasts and seek the light of truth that awaited them. Jack stood in the dimly lit room of his luxurious penthouse, tension coiling around him like a snake. He stared at the wall covered with Lily's paintings, the vibrant colors contrasting starkly with the grim reality they were facing. Each piece spoke of a childhood lost, a future stolen. Yet, intertwined within those strokes was the unquenchable spirit of a girl who had endured more than most could fathom. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. "Jack!" Sarah's voice broke through his reverie, pulling him back to the present. The detective leaned against the doorway, her expression serious. "We have a lead. I think we may have identified a suspect in the trafficking ring." Jack's heart raced. "Who is it?" he asked, stepping closer to Sarah, his hands instinctively clenching into fists. "Victor Nolan," she replied, her voice low. "He's been on the radar for years. Known for taking kids, especially girls around Lily's age. He's a ghost, but I've got a source who says he's been spotted near that abandoned warehouse on Pine Street." Jack's mind raced, the name ringing a bell from the research they had conducted. If he's involved, we need to act fast. He could be the key to finding out what happened to Emma and to Lily. Sarah nodded, her determination palpable. "We should set up surveillance. But if we want to get to him, we need to think strategically. He won't be easy to catch." A plan began to form in Jack's mind, one that would put him directly in harm's way. "What if I go in as bait?" he suggested, his voice steady despite the risk. "I can draw him out." Sarah's eyes widened in disbelief. "No, Jack. That's too dangerous. We can't risk your life like that. We need to be smart about this." "I can't just sit back and wait," Jack insisted, his voice rising slightly. "If there's even a chance that Lily might be connected to him, I have to do this. I won't let anything happen to her. Not again." Sarah studied him, weighing the desperation in his eyes against the danger of his suggestion. Finally, she relented, albeit reluctantly. "If we do this, we need to be ready. We can set up a distraction, keep eyes on you at all times. But you have to promise me that you'll stay alert. No heroics." Jack nodded, steeling himself for what lay ahead. "I promise. I just need to get close enough to find out what he knows." The next day, the atmosphere was thick with tension as they prepared for the operation. Jack stood outside the warehouse, the sun dipping below the horizon, casting long shadows that crept across the ground. Sarah was positioned a few blocks away, hidden in a van equipped with surveillance equipment. He could feel the weight of her gaze on him, a reminder that he was not alone in this fight. "Remember, Jack," Sarah's voice crackled through his earpiece, soothing yet firm. "Stay inside of the van. We're tracking your movements. If things get too dangerous, get out of there. We'll be ready to back you up." "I know the drill, Sarah," Jack replied, taking a deep breath to steady his racing heart. "I'll be careful." He approached the warehouse cautiously, pretending to check his phone as he neared the entrance. The building loomed ominously before him, graffiti marking its walls like scars. He could hear the faint sound of music and laughter emanating from inside, a stark contrast to the unease gnawing at his gut. As he stepped inside, Jack was struck by the scene before him. A small crowd mingled in the dim light, drinks in hand, laughter ringing out, but there was an undercurrent of tension that made his skin crawl. He spotted Victor Nolan in the corner, his presence commanding and intimidating. The man was surrounded by a group of shady-looking individuals, the kind that made Jack's instinct scream to turn around and leave. Jack forced himself to approach, his heart pounding in his chest. "Hey, I'm looking for a good time," he called out, forcing a casual tone into his voice. "Heard this was the place to be." Victor turned, his sharp gaze assessing Jack with an unsettling intensity. "And who might you be?" he asked, his voice smooth like silk but laced with danger. "Just a guy looking to make some connections," Jack replied, maintaining eye contact, though every nerve in his body urged him to look away. "I heard you run a tight ship. I'm interested in what you've got." Victor's lips curled into a sly smile. "Connections, huh? You're in the right place. But it's not just about making connections. It's about knowing how to play the game." As they spoke, Jack's mind raced. He couldn't shake the feeling that this man had a connection to Lily and possibly to Emma. The stakes were higher than he had anticipated, and the realization sent a chill down his spine. "Let's take this somewhere private," Victor suggested suddenly, his eyes glinting with mischief. "I think we can have a more interesting conversation." Jack's heart sank. "Sure," he said, forcing himself to sound nonchalant. But inside, panic began to rise. This was not part of the plan. He needed to keep his wits about him, but the urge to escape was overwhelming. As they walked deeper into the warehouse, Jack's thoughts spiraled. He could sense the danger closing in. "Stay calm, stay focused," he whispered to himself, but the words felt hollow as he glanced around for any sign of Sarah or her backup. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside. Jack's heart raced as he heard shouting, followed by the sound of footsteps. His instincts kicked in, and he knew he had to act quickly. "Victor, what's going on?" he asked, keeping his voice steady despite the pounding in his chest. Victor's expression darkened as he turned to the door, irritation flickering across his face. "Just some fools who don't know when to leave well enough alone." "Stay here," he ordered, moving toward the exit. This was Jack's moment. He took a deep breath and slipped away from Victor, heading toward the back of the warehouse. He had to find a way to alert Sarah without drawing attention to himself. The flickering lights cast eerie shadows along the walls, making him feel as if he were in a nightmare. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught his eye. It was a small door slightly ajar, and without thinking, he pushed it open, slipping inside. The room was dark, the air thick with dust and the smell of dampness. Jack's heart raced as he pressed his back against the wall, listening intently for any signs of Victor's return. But before he could catch his breath, he felt a surge of memories invade his mind. Emma's laughter, the warmth of her embrace, the day she disappeared. The pain was almost overwhelming, and he fought to keep his focus. "Come on, Jack," he muttered to himself. "You can't lose it now." But just as he steadied himself, he heard footsteps approaching. Adrenaline surged as he realized he needed to find a way out before Victor returned. He turned quickly, scanning the room for another exit, but all he found was a window barred with rusted metal. "Think, Jack, think," he urged himself, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He was trapped with no immediate way out, and the realization made his heart pound louder in his ears. Then he heard Victor's voice, low and dangerous. "Where did that idiot go?" Panic clawed at Jack's throat. He had to stay hidden, but the walls felt like they were closing in. He glanced at the door, knowing he had to make a choice: stay and risk being caught or take a chance and escape. As he held his breath, he made his decision. He would find a way to get out, to warn Sarah. He couldn't let this opportunity slip away. With a final deep breath, he steeled himself, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Jack felt the cold grip of fear as he was shoved into the dimly lit warehouse, the heavy door slamming shut behind him. The flickering fluorescent lights cast an eerie glow, accentuating the shadows that danced across the concrete floor. His heart raced as he tried to assess his surroundings, the adrenaline coursing through his veins. He was no longer the billionaire who could buy his way out of anything. He was just a man fighting for his life and for Lily's. The criminal stood before him, a menacing figure with a twisted grin. Well, Jack Reynolds," he sneered, his voice dripping with malice. "You've gotten yourself into quite the predicament, haven't you? Did you really think you could dig into my business and get away with it?" Jack clenched his fists, forcing himself to stay calm despite the panic bubbling within. "What do you want?" "Let me go, and I won't tell anyone about this," he said, trying to sound authoritative, but the tremor in his voice betrayed him. "Oh, I'm afraid it's too late for that," the man replied, stepping closer, his eyes narrowing. "You've already poked your nose where it doesn't belong. You should have left that little girl alone. She's better off without you." Jack's thoughts raced. "Lily," he whispered, his mind flashing to her innocent smile and the way she had brought a flicker of hope into his life. "What have you done to her?" The criminal chuckled darkly, leaning closer. "You have no idea, do you? This is bigger than you, bigger than her. But let's not dwell on that. I have something to show you." With a swift motion, he pushed Jack further into the warehouse. Jack stumbled but quickly regained his footing, scanning the room for any potential escape routes. The weight of dread settled heavily on his chest as he noticed a series of locked doors lining one side of the dimly lit space. His heart sank as he imagined what lay behind them. "Where are the kids?" Jack demanded, his voice firmer now, fueled by the urgency of the situation. "What have you done with them?" "Kids?" The man laughed mockingly. "You mean the little treasures I've been collecting? They're just fine. In fact, they're right where they belong. Out of sight, out of mind." Jack's heart raced. He couldn't let this man intimidate him. "You're sick. You're a monster," he spat, his anger rising. "I won't let you get away with this." The criminal's smile faded, replaced by a cold stare. "You think you can stop me? You're just a rich man playing hero. I've been doing this for years, and I'm not about to let a washed-up billionaire ruin my operation." Jack felt the weight of despair creeping in, but he couldn't afford to give up. He thought of Lily, of her dreams, and the pain she had shared with him. "If you think you can break me, you're wrong. I'll do whatever it takes to save her." "Save her?" The man scoffed, shaking his head in disbelief. "You're too late for that. You've already lost her." Jack's mind raced as he tried to think of a way out. He had to stay focused. He needed to find Lily. "What do you want from me?" he asked, hoping to buy time. "Simple," the criminal replied, his tone chillingly casual. "I want you to watch as everything you love falls apart. You'll see what happens when you meddle in my affairs." Jack's resolve hardened. He might be trapped, but he wouldn't let fear dictate his actions. He needed to find a way to escape and save Lily, no matter the cost. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed from the back of the warehouse, and Jack's heart skipped a beat. The door creaked open, and a figure stepped inside. It was Lily, her wide eyes reflecting the fear and confusion that mirrored Jack's own. "Lily!" he shouted, desperation seeping into his voice. "Get out of here!" The criminal turned, momentarily distracted by her presence. "Ah, the little artist herself? Perfect timing," he exclaimed, a sinister smile creeping across his face. "Let's see what you can do." "Jack." Lily's voice trembled as she took a step forward, concern etched on her features. "What's happening?" "Stay back, Lily," Jack shouted, his heart pounding as he tried to protect her. "You need to get out of here." But the criminal stepped between them, a calculated grin plastered on his face. "Let's make this interesting," he said, his eyes glinting with malice. "If you want to save her, Jack, you'll have to play my game." "What do you mean?" Jack asked, his stomach twisting in knots. "I'll give you a chance to prove your worth. If you can outsmart me, maybe I'll let you both walk away. But if you fail..." His voice trailed off, leaving the threat hanging in the air like a dark cloud. Jack's mind raced. He couldn't let fear dictate his actions. "What do you want me to do?" he asked, his voice steady. The criminal leaned in, relishing the moment. "I'll ask you a riddle. Get it right, and you both walk free. But get it wrong, and you'll both stay here forever." Jack exchanged a glance with Lily, who looked frightened but resolute. He couldn't let her down. He had to protect her, no matter what. "Fine," Jack said, his voice firm. "Let's hear it." The criminal smirked, clearly enjoying his power. "Here it is. I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with the wind. What am I?" Jack's mind raced as he tried to decipher the riddle. He felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him, the stakes higher than ever. He glanced at Lily, who was watching him with wide, hopeful eyes. "Think, Jack," he muttered to himself, running through possibilities. Suddenly, it hit him. "An echo!" he shouted, the answer bursting forth with conviction. The criminal's smile faltered for a moment, but then he laughed, a harsh sound that filled the warehouse. "Impressive, Jack, but don't get too comfortable. You might be smart, but that doesn't mean you're safe." Jack's heart raced as the criminal's demeanor shifted. "Now, let's see how well you fare with a little more pressure." Before Jack could react, the criminal lunged forward, grabbing him by the collar and shoving him against the wall. "You think you can save her? You think you're a hero? You're just a man playing a part. Get your hands off him." Lily shouted, her voice filled with determination. "Lily, stay back," Jack warned, struggling against the hold. He could feel the panic rising within him, but he couldn't let it consume him. "You have to run." Lily shook her head, stepping forward despite the danger. "I won't leave you." The criminal's grip tightened, and Jack could feel the desperation building within him. "You don't understand what you're dealing with. You're in over your head," he growled. In that moment, an idea struck Jack. "You think you can scare me? You think I'll back down? You're wrong. I've lost everything before, and I won't lose again." The man's expression shifted, confusion flickering in his eyes. "What are you talking about?" "Emma," Jack said, his voice steady as he met the criminal's gaze. "My daughter. She was taken from me. But I won't let that happen again. I won't let you take Lily." The criminal recoiled, a flash of uncertainty crossing his face. "You're a fool," he spat, but there was a hint of doubt now. In the midst of the chaos, Jack felt a surge of determination. He wasn't going to let fear control him any longer. He would find a way to protect Lily and confront the darkness that had haunted him for so long. "I'll fight for her," Jack declared, his voice rising. "I'll find a way to save both of us. You won't win." The criminal's eyes darkened, the threat palpable in the air. "You think you're brave? We'll see how brave you are when I'm done with you." As the tension hung in the air, Jack knew one thing for certain. He would do whatever it took to keep Lily safe, even if it meant facing the darkest corners of his past. Lily stood in front of the large canvas, her heart racing as she and Sarah discussed the plan. The dim light of the basement illuminated the room, casting long shadows across the walls filled with her artwork. Each stroke of paint told a story of loss and hope, but today, the urgency of their mission overshadowed her usual creative spirit. "Are you sure about this, Lily?" Sarah asked, her brow furrowed with concern. She was a seasoned investigator, but the thought of involving a child, albeit a brave one, made her uneasy. "This isn't just another art show. We're dealing with dangerous people." Lily nodded, her determination shining through her fear. "I have to do this. I want to help Jack. He believes in me, and I can't let him down." The thought of Jack, his warm smile and gentle encouragement, fueled her resolve. She took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of emotions swirling within her. "Besides, my paintings have always been my way of telling stories. Maybe this time, they can save someone." Sarah stepped closer, resting her hand on Lily's shoulder. "All right then, let's take a closer look at what we have to work with." They spread out the sketches Lily had made, each one depicting scenes from her dreams, the lost children, the dark places they were hidden, and the glimmers of hope she envisioned for their escape. "Okay, here's the plan," Sarah said, her voice low and steady. "We need to create a distraction that will draw attention away from the guards. While they're occupied, you can slip in and look for Jack. We can use your art to create some sort of spectacle." Lily's eyes lit up. "What if I paint something on the wall? Something that tells a story? If it's compelling enough, they might gather around to watch." She envisioned herself standing in front of a massive canvas, painting furiously as the guards approached, curiosity piqued by her artistic talent. "Good idea," Sarah replied, nodding. "But we need to be quick. We can't afford to get caught. I'll make sure the area is clear, and once you start painting, I'll find Jack and bring him to safety." As they finalized the plan, Lily felt a surge of hope. This was her chance to do something meaningful, to reclaim her narrative and fight back against the shadows that had haunted her for so long. Hours later, the two women stood outside a nondescript warehouse, the night air thick with tension. Sarah had scouted the area, and it was now or never. "Lily, remember, you're not just painting. You're creating a diversion. Stay focused on the art, and I'll handle the rest." Lily took a deep breath, clutching her paintbrush tightly. "I won't let you down." As they entered the building, the smell of damp concrete filled the air. The interior was dark, illuminated only by flickering overhead lights. The sound of muffled voices echoed through the hallways, and Lily's heart raced. They moved stealthily, avoiding the guards who were stationed throughout the area. Finally, they reached a large, empty room that seemed to echo with potential. "This will do," Sarah whispered, her eyes scanning for any signs of danger. "Get started. I'll keep watch." Lily set her canvas against the wall and began to paint, the colors swirling together as she poured her emotions onto the canvas. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her, but she channeled her fear into the brush strokes. The image began to take shape, a vibrant scene of children playing in a sunlit field, laughter echoing in the background. "This is beautiful," Sarah murmured, captivated by Lily's talent. "But we need to hurry. We don't have much time before they notice something's off." "I know," Lily replied, focused on her work. "Just a little more." She painted with fervor, bringing the scene to life, but as she did, she felt a sense of vulnerability wash over her. Each stroke was a reminder of what had been taken from her, the childhood she never had. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and a guard stepped in. "What the hell is going on here?" he barked, his eyes narrowing as he took in the sight of the young girl painting furiously. Lily's heart raced as she glanced at Sarah, who was already moving to intercept the guard. "Hey, you're not supposed to be in here," Sarah shouted, her voice steady but urgent. Lily took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. She continued to paint, adding flourishes to the scene that would draw the guard's attention. "Look at this," she called out, her voice bright. "Isn't it amazing?" The guard hesitated, his curiosity piqued. "What are you doing?" "I'm telling a story through my art," Lily replied, her voice smooth and confident. "You should come see it up close." As the guard stepped closer, Sarah subtly positioned herself between him and Lily, ready to spring into action. "This is a distraction," she thought, her heart pounding in her chest. The guard crossed his arms, skepticism etched on his face. "What kind of story?" Lily took a step back from the canvas, gesturing grandly. "It's about hope, about the power of friendship and the joy of being free." The guard's frown deepened, but he couldn't help but lean in closer, intrigued despite himself. "Let me see," he said, his tone softening. In that moment, Lily seized the opportunity. "Look, see how they're all playing together. They're happy and safe." She added strokes of color, depicting laughter and joy, while Sarah moved silently behind the guard, her heart racing as she prepared to act. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from outside, drawing the guard's attention away from Lily. "What was that?" he exclaimed, turning towards the noise. "Maybe something is happening. You should check it out," Lily urged, her eyes wide with feigned innocence. The guard hesitated, glancing between the canvas and the door. "Stay right here," he ordered, taking a step back. As soon as he turned, Sarah sprang into action. "Now, Lily!" she shouted, and Lily quickly grabbed her backpack filled with paints, her heart racing as she prepared to make her escape. With the guard distracted, they dashed out of the room, moving quickly through the maze of hallways. Lily's mind raced as she thought of Jack. She had to get to him. She had to help him. "Do you know where he is?" Sarah asked, glancing around the corners as they ran. "I think," Lily hesitated, remembering the layout of the warehouse from her dreams. "He should be in the main holding area. Follow me." They turned a corner, and Lily's breath caught in her throat as she caught sight of a door marked, "Authorized personnel only." "That's it," she exclaimed, pointing towards the door. "Jack has to be in there." As they approached, they could hear muffled voices from within. Lily's heart raced as they reached for the door handle, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "We have to be quiet," Sarah whispered, her expression serious. Lily nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. She reached for the handle, ready to push the door open and face whatever lay beyond, determined to find Jack and rescue him from the shadows that had haunted them both for far too long. Jack found himself in a dimly lit room, the air thick with tension and the faint smell of damp concrete. Bound to a chair, he struggled against the ropes that cut into his wrists. His heart raced as he listened to the distant sounds of footsteps echoing through the building, each sound amplifying the anxiety that gripped him. The sound of a door creaking open made his pulse quicken even more. The door swung wide, and in stepped the notorious trafficker, Victor Grayson, with a smug smile plastered across his face. Jack recognized him immediately. He had seen Grayson's face in the news, a shadowy figure behind numerous abductions. "Ah, the billionaire with a penchant for heroics," Grayson sneered, his voice dripping with mockery. What a delightful surprise. What do you want from me? Jack spat, his voice hoarse but defiant. You won't get away with this. Grayson chuckled, a low, chilling sound that echoed off the walls. Oh, but I already have, haven't I? You're nothing but a pawn in a game much larger than you can comprehend. He stepped closer, looming over Jack with a predatory glint in his eyes. You see, I have something you want. Your precious daughter, Emma. Jack's heart sank at the mere mention of her name. What do you know about her? He demanded, a mixture of anger and desperation flooding his voice. Grayson leaned in, his face inches from Jack's. I know everything about her. You see, your little girl is not lost to you because she was simply taken. She is lost to you because she was never meant to be found. You've been searching in the wrong places, asking the wrong questions. The truth is far more sinister than you could have imagined. Jack's breath hitched. He fought to maintain his composure. What are you talking about? Just tell me where she is. Grayson straightened up, a satisfied smirk on his face. You want to know where she is? That's the easy part. But the hard part is accepting the truth. Your daughter is a mere pawn in my operations. She has been under my care for quite some time, and I must say, she's grown into quite the asset. What do you mean, under your care? Jack's voice trembled with rage. You're a monster. A monster? Perhaps, Grayson said, waving off Jack's words, but a clever one. You never did understand the depths of what I do. You see, the children I take are not just commodities. They're investments for the future. And Emma? Oh, she could have been so much more. But you made it too easy for me, Jack. You were so focused on your wealth and power that you neglected the one thing that mattered most. Jack felt a cold chill run down his spine. What did you do to her? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper, heart racing with fear. Grayson leaned back against the wall, crossing his arms. She's safe. For now. But you know what they say about safety in this business? It's a temporary state. You see, she's been molded into something new, something useful. She doesn't even remember her father. Not in the way you'd hope. She's been protected, kept in the shadows, all for her own good. Protected? Jack echoed, disbelief lacing his words. You call this protection? You've torn her from her family, from me. Grayson shrugged, a nonchalant gesture that only fueled Jack's anger. You're the one who failed to protect her, Jack. Wasn't it your fault she was taken in the first place? A careless mistake, a moment of weakness. You were too busy playing the role of the wealthy businessman, while I played the game you weren't even aware was being played around you. Jack's mind raced, recalling the fateful day Emma had been taken from him. The parade, the laughter, the moment he turned away for just a second. You're lying, he managed to say, but doubt crept into his voice. Am I? Grayson leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Let me tell you a secret. You see, I've kept a close eye on your family for years. Your wife, your daughter, they were never safe. But Emma? She had a purpose. And now, she's not just a girl. She's a survivor, molded by her experiences. She's become one of us, a child of the shadows. Jack's heart clenched at the thought of Emma being lost in the darkness, her spirit twisted by the very man who stood before him. You'll pay for this, he growled, anger boiling within him. I will find her, and I will make sure you get what you deserve. Grayson laughed, a sound so cold it sent shivers down Jack's spine. You think you can save her? You're already too late. She has been trained, conditioned to forget you. She's no longer just your little girl. She's become a part of my world now. And you? You're just another name on my list of problems to deal with. Jack's mind raced with the implications. Grayson was right. He had underestimated the man's reach and influence, but he couldn't let despair take hold. You might think you have control, but you're wrong. I will find her, and I will expose you for the monster you are. Good luck with that, Jack, Grayson said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. You'll need it. But before you think you can escape, let me show you something. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. This is a little insurance policy. You see, every move you make is being watched. You may think your little investigation is clever, but I have eyes everywhere. Jack's heart raced as a wave of panic washed over him. What are you going to do? Grayson stepped back, a sinister smile growing on his face. Just a little demonstration of my power. You see, the moment you think you're getting close to the truth, I can make sure you're silenced forever. And as for Emma, well, let's just say her future is in my hands now. The gravity of the situation hit Jack like a punch to the gut. He found himself staring into the eyes of a man who thrived on fear, who relished in the pain he inflicted on others. You're a coward, Jack said, trying to mask his fear with defiance. You may think you have all the power, but you're underestimating me. Grayson simply shrugged, his amusement evident. Underestimating you? No, Jack. I'm merely stating facts. You're a man out of time, a relic of a bygone era where justice meant something. In my world, power is everything. You, my friend, are powerless. As Grayson turned to leave, Jack felt a surge of determination. He couldn't give up. He wouldn't. I will get out of here, he vowed, his voice steady, and I will bring you down. Grayson paused at the door, glancing back over his shoulder, a smug expression on his face. Try your best, Jack. I'll be waiting. Just remember, the shadows will always be watching. With that, he stepped out, leaving Jack alone in the darkness, his thoughts racing as he plotted his next move. As shadows loomed over the dilapidated warehouse, where Jack found himself in a battle against time. The air was thick with tension and the unmistakable scent of fear. He had managed to free himself from the ropes that bound him, driven by the overwhelming need to rescue Lily, or Emma, as he would soon discover. His heart raced as he pushed open the heavy door, his mind racing with thoughts of the girl who had captured his heart and reminded him of everything he had lost. Jack! Her voice pierced through the darkness. He turned sharply, his breath hitching in his throat. Lily was there, standing at the far end of the room, her wide eyes reflecting fear and determination. She was cornered, nearly within the grasp of the criminal who had haunted them both for far too long. Lily! Jack shouted, rushing toward her. His legs moved faster than his mind could process, but every instinct screamed for him to save her. The sinister figure of the criminal loomed closer, a predatory grin spreading across his face. Stay back, Jack, Lily yelled, her voice trembling yet fierce. You can't risk it. He's dangerous. But Jack was already too far gone, his heart set on her safety. I won't let him take you again. The criminal's laughter echoed through the cold, damp air, a chilling sound that made the hairs on Jack's neck stand on end. How touching, he said, sneering at them. But you're both too late. This is where the story ends. Jack clenched his fists, feeling the weight of his past and the urgency of their predicament collide. You won't get away with this, he growled, his voice low and steady, masking the fear that threatened to consume him. Lily took a step back, her eyes darting between Jack and the criminal. Jack, listen to me, she started, but the man interrupted with a wave of his hand. Enough of this emotional reunion, he spat, stepping forward, his hand reaching for Lily. Jack felt a surge of adrenaline as he lunged forward, positioning himself between them. Leave her alone, Jack demanded, his voice booming through the warehouse as he squared his shoulders, ready to fight. The criminal's smirk faded, replaced by a look of annoyance. You think you can protect her? He taunted. You have no idea who you're dealing with. In that moment, something shifted in the air. Lily's expression changed, a flicker of recognition crossing her face. Jack, wait, she called out, her voice breaking slightly. There's something you need to know. The criminal's eyes narrowed, and Jack could sense the danger escalating. You're wasting your time, girl. You don't know what you're talking about, he sneered. But Lily took a deep breath, and Jack could see the resolve building within her. No, I do. I know who I am, she said, her voice steady despite the fear that hovered around them like a storm cloud. I'm Emma. I'm your daughter. Jack's heart stopped. The world around him blurred as he processed her words. What? He whispered, disbelief flooding through him. No, that can't be true. Lily stepped closer, her eyes filled with unshed tears. I was taken from you, Jack. I've spent my life trying to find my way back. They kept me safe under this name, Lily, but I've always known. I've always felt there was something missing. The criminal laughed, a cruel, mocking sound. This is Rich. You really think he'll believe you? After all these years? Jack felt a whirlwind of emotions crashing over him. Joy, despair, confusion. Emma, my Emma, he whispered, stepping closer to Lily, struggling to reconcile the girl he had just begun to know with the daughter he had lost. It's really you? Lily nodded, her expression unwavering. I've remembered bits and pieces, Jack. The love you showed, the warmth of your embrace, the sound of your voice. They took me, but I never stopped searching. I painted to remember, to keep our connection alive. His heart raced as the pieces began to fit together. All those years of searching, the endless nights filled with grief, and the hope that had never truly died in him. But why didn't you tell me sooner? He asked, his voice cracking under the weight of his emotions. Because I wasn't sure you would believe me, she replied, her voice softening. And I was terrified of losing you again. I thought if I could help you find me, we could put an end to this nightmare together. The criminal scoffed, his eyes gleaming with malice. Enough of this sentimental nonsense. You're both coming with me. He lunged toward Lily, but Jack was ready. He grabbed a nearby metal pipe, wielding it like a weapon, and swung it with all his might. The impact caught the criminal by surprise, and he staggered back, momentarily stunned. Run, Emma, Jack shouted, urgency lacing his voice. Lily took off, darting toward a side exit, but the criminal regained his balance, fury etched across his face. You little brat. You think you can escape me? He bellowed, chasing after her. Jack's heart raced as he followed, determination surging through him. You won't take her again, he yelled, adrenaline fueling his every move. They burst through the door into the night, the chill air biting against their skin. Jack caught up to Lily, grabbing her hand. We have to find a way out. I know a place, she cried, leading him through the darkness, her face illuminated by the faint glow of streetlights. Behind them, the criminal's roars echoed, his footsteps pounding against the pavement. You can't run forever, he shouted, his voice laced with rage. Jack and Lily dashed through an alley, their breaths coming in frantic gasps. Jack's mind raced with thoughts of escape, but as they reached the end of the alley, he spotted a chain-link fence blocking their path. We have to climb, he shouted, urgency in every syllable. Lily nodded, determination shining in her eyes. I'll go first. She scrambled up the fence with agility, and Jack followed closely behind. Just as they reached the top, they heard the criminal's voice echoing behind them, the sound of his footsteps drawing closer. Get down, Jack urged as they both jumped to the other side, landing with a grunt on the hard ground. They didn't stop to catch their breath. They ran, legs pumping, hearts racing. As they sprinted through the streets, Jack glanced at Lily, the girl who had once been lost to him, now his daughter standing beside him. We're going to make it, he promised, the weight of his past beginning to lift. I believe you, Dad, she replied, her voice strong even in the face of danger. They rounded a corner and stumbled into a crowd, the noise and chaos providing a temporary shield against their pursuer. Jack glanced back, searching for the criminal, but the sea of faces swallowed them whole, and for the first time in years, he felt a glimmer of hope. Let's keep moving, he whispered, pulling Lily close. No one's taking you from me again. As they blended into the crowd, Jack felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. They would find a way out of this nightmare together, reclaiming not only their lives but their bond, finally free to rewrite their future.